It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. From Fantadrax TV, this is Good Morning Tatooine!
Good morning, Tatooine. We're back after the debacle of last week's Good Morning Coruscant. But I'm on my lonesome. I've got no co-host this week. Poor Paul Naylor on holiday. So you've got me for tonight, I'm afraid, but we've got lots to cover, so why don't we crack on and find out what we're talking about on tonight's show? On tonight's show, first up, we're going to be talking Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy, Pieces of the Past, with the new lead baddie announced as the actor Dan Stevens. Then we'll be taking a look at Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures, the training sessions, a new graphic novel coming out the 18th of November. We also hear this week from the Saga Museum and their Echoes from the Galaxy auction, which is taking place very shortly. And then we'll be talking about Kickstarters, The Art of Star Wars and New Hope, the manga, just about to launch. This was announced way back in Celebration Japan. Very sad news this week as well, the passing of Admiral Piet Ken Colley, incredible actor who I had pleasure to meet on a few occasions, so we'll be talking about his legacy. We'll be checking out Andor Season 2 once more, with Scanline VFX releasing a video of the highlight in their work. We'll be checking that out. And we'll be ending the show by hearing from Ivanna Sakhno on Rory McCann as Baylan Skoll in Ahsoka Season 2, where she said that watching him has been a gift. So a lot of news there for us to cover tonight, and can't wait to get stuck into it. So let's, there we go. Look, here's my good colleague Paul Naylor commenting in from sunny Gran Canaria, asking, where's my substitute? Paul, there is no substitute for you. There's no Buffy, no Puffy, and no Paul Naylor. It's gone downhill. Yeah, who could replace you, Paul? That's the absolute truth. Let's check out what we've got coming up first on the news. And first up, we're talking Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy, Pieces of the Past, which has been announced for Disney Plus in September, and it has announced its new lead baddie, the actor Dan Stevens. If you don't know Dan Stevens, he was Lady Mary's husband in Downton Abbey, of all shows, who died in a car crash right at the end of the series, got written off the show right at the end of a series. And so he's gone from loving 1930s fast cars to playing a Sith, playing the new villain Solitus, and it's going to be launching 19th September, so just over 2 months' time, announced by Disney Plus. All the episodes of the 4-piece special event dropping September 19th, which kind of fits in with what they've done with Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy in previous last year. I think all the episodes dropped at the same time, so they released this poster with the new character. I called him a Sith. They don't actually call him a Sith, I don't think, in the piece, but he was the master of Rebuild the Galaxy's main character, and he's kind of on the dark side of things, so we're going to be digging into their past, it appears from the promo. I'm not a huge fan of Star Wars animation at all. I try and avoid it as best I can, but yeah, I know a lot of people will be excited for Rebuild the Galaxy pieces of the past, because it's become something of an annual event, having a big Star Wars Lego project drop, and I know there's Lego products going to drop at the same time as the show comes out as well, so this becomes significant in the big thing in the Star Wars galaxy. Something that's also well established in Star Wars animation on Disney Plus is Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures, and there's a new trade paperback coming out this November called The Training Sessions. I'm not too sure of how big an impact Young Jedi Adventures has had on attracting young kids to Star Wars, but the number of products and the way that they're continuously pushed this hard makes me think that it has been, it has had a relative impact. And this trade paperback's going to have 3 short tales in it. And Daniel Jose Older, the lead writer on this project as well, who everyone know very well from his High Republic era comics and books, and he's also leading on this project, which is obviously set in the High Republic era as well, although that's not really the focus, particularly on how they tell these stories. It's very much a self-contained Young Jedi Adventures kind of arc. So Nubs will be back, hugely popular Nubs, who rejected me at Star Wars Celebration, as Paul Naylor shouts out, Nubs, Nubs, Nubs. Tried to get my photo taken with him at Star Wars Celebration, and I was rejected. Just too old. They were prioritising children. What's wrong with that? And we're going to get 3 new short tales. Always beautiful art. The artist Andy Duggan is back on this one. You'll have seen his work with Dark Horse on projects like the Hyperspace Stories, on the sort of Halloween horror kind of tales that they do as well, Tales from the Rancor Pit. So exciting to have him back on the project as well. So there's a lot of talent there involved, number of writers, number of artists. Can't wait to see what they come up with. It's kind of cutesy. It's aimed at very young kids. Why not? Star Wars has got plenty of opportunity for people of all ages. And something to cement the legacy of Star Wars is this really important project being led by a number of very prominent Star Wars collectors, Gus Lopez, Steve Sansweet, etc., that many, many people will know, who are trying to form what they've termed the Saga Museum. Their intention is to build a 200,000 square foot sanctuary for over 1.5 million Star Wars objects, and they kind of want to represent not just the films, not just the shows, but fandom as well, which is incredibly important. If you've ever been to Rancho Obi-Wan, an incredible experience to visit there and see all that's been collected. And if you can imagine 4 or 5 of the world's most prominent collectors coming together and merging their collections together to form a museum, a physical museum that everyone can go and visit, and cement, Star Wars throughout its time, its legacy, its fandom, market is something special. And So, you know, the next generation, the kids that are watching the Young Jedi Adventures can come and see what we grew up on, and the films and the shows and the characters and the toys, and see how things evolve. Because it's amazing when you go to things like Star Wars Celebration, how many people are introduced to Star Wars through the Clone Wars or Rebels, potentially the Young Jedi Adventures. And so the original films don't necessarily have the same meaning to them, because that's not what brought them into Star Wars. Everyone's kind of got a thing. And so this is going to really mark Star Wars fandom over the entire near 50 years now. And there's a little video from this upcoming auction that they're doing that I can play just now.
Across the planet and connected them under a common love.
My eyes just got wide and I was like, oh my God, this is like nothing I'd ever seen before. Watching movies is never the same again.
Growing up with a single mom, Harrison Ford was a role model for me, surrogate father, if you will.
We all had that Luke Skywalker. We all had the R2-D2, and we remember playing with Millennium Falcon. It's a commonality.
There are so many people who are attracted to Star Wars story, the mythology, and the characters. It really binds us all together. I've dedicated the better part of my adult life to helping build the Star Wars community. But what I have given it, it has given me back far more.
I never thought I'd live in a Star Wars museum. Would never have imagined that direction for myself. I didn't really know that Star Wars was that much of a thing until I visited Rancho Obi-Wan.
Steven Sansweet has been called a master collector of Star Wars memorabilia. He is the proud owner of the largest collection outside of the Lucasfilm archives.
There were a lot of things here. Lots and lots and lots of things.
Well, it's true. I'm a completist. That means everything that's out there, I want one of.
When I started, I had a feeling that someday it would become a behemoth, but I've never looked back.
When I first got here, the whole museum was just an unfinished barn being used as a storage unit. We brought together volunteers, we rearranged, we built out another building, added some interactive elements, and opened up the museum for the world.
Rancho Obi-Wan. But I'm not the only collector out there.
When I started out, it was really about filling in the gaps in my collection when I was a kid, and it just snowballed from there.
We've spent decades amassing these things. We built our house to house collectibles as much to house ourselves.
I'm the Jawa. I'm the little guy that's going around collecting every little piece of scrap that I can and putting it all together and hoping somewhere somebody else is going to find some interest in it.
Combined, these collectors have over 1.5 million pieces.
I was having these conversations with other collectors, and the same question kept coming up. What happens to these collections when we're gone?
I used to joke that I would be laid out inside the museum and have it imploded around me. Well, that's not quite what I wanted for my legacy.
It'd be nice if this went on to do something bigger.
Wouldn't it be cool if we got the best of Star Wars collections and built one unmatchable Star Wars museum?
We're bringing together 4 of the largest Star Wars collections in the world to make one giant collection that will be by far the biggest Star Wars collection in the world.
What we're talking about is building the Jedi Temple for Star Wars relics.
This will be a place of community building and learning,
where people can come from all over the world and geek out together.
We want hundreds of thousands of people to be able to see these collections.
Fans opening their own museum, on the surface, yeah, it's kind of bonkers. Doing a new museum, it's a big lift.
To bring these collections together, we need to build a team, we need a location, and we need to create educational programming. The logistics are daunting.
For these 4 collectors, they're thinking beyond themselves. They want to create a legacy around all the cultural artifacts they've gathered over the years. This isn't about us. It's about the stories that the objects have to tell.
As first-generation Star Wars fans, it's up to us to preserve this legacy.
Star Wars is forever. It turns the light on. It's bigger than all of us. Sometimes it can be overwhelming.
Fandom is like life. It finds a way. This is going to be a world-class museum.
The amount of creativity this franchise has inspired, it's touched people all over the world. That legacy continues, and it will continue for generations.
Today, we are sharing this dream with you and asking for your help to make it a reality. The Saga Museum of Star Wars memorabilia. Join us on our journey to preserve these collections for future generations.
I think it's an absolutely wonderful idea, and I wish them all the luck, and I'll be supporting them 100% along the way in their journey. And on July 27th, they've got a big fundraiser. The Comic-Con Museum in San Diego is going to be hosting Echoes from the Galaxy, a live and online auction by TCM and Julian's Auctions. And as they say themselves, it's not just a sale, it's the first step in them fundraising towards the Saga Museum. So as well as, obviously, we've got these huge collectors, iconic collectors, contributing 1.5 million items. We also need to fund this museum somehow, to launch it, to support it going forward as well. You know, they've got the concept, and it's up to us as fans to support it, to create this legacy that they've envisioned. And so there's going to be auction off some incredible items. I've been checking out the listings, and I was like, oh, I want that. So there's definitely things you want to bid on. So do check it out. Head to sagamuseum.org. Check out the listing as well. You get the links in our show notes as well. So just a few of the items here. You can see patches, posters, comic book art, statues, you name it. Just incredible, beautiful things. That Star Wars poster was one of the very first Star Wars items, way back at the very beginning. Empire Strikes Back posters there, bust of Darth Vader, all sorts of things. Something for everyone, and a huge range of prices as well in the auction, so it's accessible for a lot of people. Over 200 items going up for auction, so we'll be supporting them. I hope it goes incredibly well for them. Talking of fundraising projects, so one that was slightly controversial when it was announced at Star Wars Celebration, The Art of Star Wars: A New Hope, the manga, and it was announced at Star Wars Celebration, and it was announced that it would be a Kickstarter project. The collector's edition of this will be available at retail, but you can only get the Masterpiece edition through Dark Horse Comics Kickstarter project. And it's taken the 1998 Heizo Tamaki art of Star Wars manga A New Hope, which was a beautiful manga that Dark Horse released back in 1998, and it's going to blow up the art to its full size. Really a deep dive into that manga project. Dark Horse are pushing the idea to start following it now on Kickstarter. Again, the link's in the show notes, because it's going to be launching with a date very, very soon, and you want to be there if you want the Masterpiece edition, that's for sure. And it's going to be a 2-volume collection, and it's going to include all this beautiful extras and artwork, which comic collectors are going to just absolutely love, because it was an iconic series at its time, and you're going to get a chance to see the art in its full-sized original inked, which will be a really special item to hold. So as much as I'm doing a Kickstarter was controversial, I like the fact that there is a version of this going to come to retail, and it's going to be an enhanced Master Masterpiece Edition that is going to be the Kickstarter. So those of them that don't want to get involved in Kickstarter, just want to go to their local comic book store, can still pick up the core of this project. If you want to deep dive a little bit more, you can go for the Masterpiece Edition as well. Date not announced yet, but very, very soon. So you can head to Kickstarter now. You can subscribe to the page, so you'll get an alert as soon as it goes live, so you can be part of this project. Next up on the news front, we had the very sad news this week, the passing of actor Ken Colley, who played Admiral Piat in the original trilogy, and it got an amazing amount of coverage, which I thought was wonderful, to celebrate his life. It was on BBC News. It was, it was very prominently reported, because he became an iconic character, and he was one of those few characters that's was taken back from The Empire Strikes Back to Return of the Jedi, and specifically because George Lucas loved his work on the project, and passed away on the 30th of June, aged 87. Also was in Monty Python's Life of Brian, which I didn't realise, and actually went back and watched this week purely because of that. He was in a whole load of iconic UK shows, like The Sweeney, Pennies from Heaven, War and Remembrance, Inspector Morse as well. So a very celebrated actor. I had the pleasure to meet him a number of times at conventions. Just an absolute pleasure to meet him and know him, to get to talk Star Wars with him, to talk with him about some of his other work as well, because I was a big Inspector Morse fan as well. And the news announced by Alliance agents who represented him. Very, very sad to hear it, but I was delighted that, every UK publication, I think, and the major news outlets covered this, because he was effectively a minor character in Star Wars in the scale of things. He wasn't a lead character, but he was significant and remembered. He had iconic scenes with Darth Vader, and it was so nice to see him celebrated, and I hope that brings some comfort to his family, because it shows you how treasured and how loved he was, not just as a character, but as the man as well as the actor. And so again, our condolences to his family and the much loved Ken Colley, who played Admiral Piat. This week, we've had an amazing video released as well from Scanline VFX, who worked on Andor Season 2, and effectively a showreel of their work. And I'm going to show it to you now, just because I was just blown away with it. I love seeing these VFX breakdowns, and we've been so lucky to see so many of them for Andor Season 2. And I think it's primarily because people are so proud of their work in the shows. The show has become its own creature, in effect. It's gone, it's somehow risen above just being a Star Wars show. It's kind of crossed that divide into people just loving Andor for being Andor. And I think it's going to get lucky and win Emmys. It's going to win other awards, for absolutely sure. And it's often that sci-fi, and especially Star Wars, it gets kind of overlooked in award season. I don't think this show is going to get overlooked. There's so much pride in the industry of what they've made here. And so I'll play the video and we can enjoy it. Let's rewind it back to the start, because I've underplayed it there. here we go. Back to this page. The hugely impressive, absolutely hugely impressive scale of work. And the sad thing is that the way with budgets and income for streaming services, we'll probably never see something of the scale of Andor ever again. Nothing to do with the success of the show, nothing to do with the success of Star Wars. It's got to do with the way that the industry's starting to recognise that streaming's not all that in terms of income and profit generator. Probably never see a show get the kind of budget that Andor got, certainly not for Disney Plus. And that's a sad shame, because the scale and depth of that show was something else. And, you know, when they talked about it being like a little movie, when you connect to sort of the 3 episodes of season 2, the different blocks together being a movie, so you've effectively got 4 movies, you know, they're not lying, you know, it was something special and something very landmark about Andor. And the sad thing is that the projects that follow are going to get measured against Andor. It's inevitable, and just on budget and scale, no other show that follows is going to be able to reach that. And so it's something we should celebrate, something we should enjoy, keep watching it, go back and rewatch it. You know, it's a beautiful show, and something that we should all be incredibly thrilled to being able to witness and enjoy, and wish all these companies and all these contributors to the show all the very best in award season. And last but not least, we're talking the next project that's probably going to come to Disney Plus, ignoring the animated shows, will be Ahsoka Season 2. And this past week, Ivanna Sakhno has been talking about Rory McCann taking on the role of Baylan Skoll, and has said that watching him has been a gift. And obviously Rory McCann has taken on the role from the sadly departed Ray Stevenson, who was phenomenal in season 1 of the show, just absolutely phenomenal. And, you know, both Ivanna and him, who took characters that nobody knew anything about and made them very much loved characters. And season 2's filming at the moment here in the UK, and she's taken the chance while she's been out promoting Megan 2.0 to talk about the show a little bit. And she talked about how they're a quarter of the way down through Ahsoka season 2, and how much she's missed Rey, but she's incredibly grateful to Dave Filoni, Lucasfilm, for selecting the right person, and how much thought they've put into finding the right person to continue the role of Baylan. And in her opinion, they couldn't find anyone better than Rory. With his scale of depth, his respect for the character of Baylan, and also for what Rey had created before him, which allows him to Rory to really become the character of Baylan himself. She mentions that watching him do this role has been a gift, and she says that all feel Rael's presence as well and guidance. She feels immense gratitude, and Rory's a dream to be around. And I think that's what we all want to hear, because it was incredibly emotional at Celebration to hear Dave Filoni talk about Rey's passing, and talking about whether he wanted to continue to make more episodes of Ahsoka. It really hit him hard. It was a really tough being in that room and seeing how emotional Dave was about it. And you know, they've picked a great person, I think, in Rory as well, who was good friends with Rey, which I think helps immensely. As she said, you know, the respect there, you know, he's got to bring himself into the character. He's got to be allowed that. And I think that as fans, we can't judge him against Rey's work. We have to judge him on what he brings himself to the character. and we've all fallen a little bit in love with the character. It was so well done in season 1. It will be a jolt to start with, to see Rory in that role, but I think we have to appreciate the fact, the words. You can go back and watch the video of Dave Filoni at Celebration and hear his words, hear what Ivanna's saying here as well. They're all thinking about Rey, including Rory. He's very much in their thoughts all the time, but they're so keen to honour him by making the character continue and the character have the conclusion to his story and his arc. As Skyrider says here on YouTube, I love Ivanna, so happy for Rory, and that Baylan's story continues, and I agree as well. There's something about Ivanna as well. She's really embraced the fandom. She's really captured the hearts of people as well, and I think for her to come out and say this, she wouldn't be saying it unless she truly felt it, and I think it's a huge positive that she's so comfortable, so happy, so proud of the work that they're doing. And I was never a huge Ahsoka fan because I'm not a huge animation fan, so there was huge parts of season 1 that didn't land or didn't impact me in the same way that it affected fans of that character. So having Ivanna and Rey there as new characters that didn't have a history, that that was kind of a nice balance for me, because I didn't have to worry too much about, I don't know the character of Ahsoka to care as greatly as others did, but I could become invested in these characters. And as Skyrider says as well, he's a fan of both actors. I've already primed my brain for Rory as Baylan. I'm in the same boat. I'm not familiar with a lot of Rory's work beyond Game of Thrones. He was phenomenal in Game of Thrones, and that was a very complicated character who had his light moments, who had his dark moments, and so I can see what he would bring to the character of Baylan. I loved the visual of him that released as well, because obviously he's been dressed, makeup, hair, beard, to look a little bit like Baylan, but they haven't tried to carbon copy the look of Rey. They've allowed Rory to be himself in that character as well. And that's a positive, because I think when you're in this tragic situation where you're kind of forced to bring someone in to continue the role, I think you can try too hard to make the new actor a clone of the first actor. It's not. I think you have to respect Rory and let Rory bring his own thing to the characters as well. And when him knowing Rey, he'll be able to, as a phenomenal actor that he is, to bring elements of Rey's nature and Rey's work on the character from season 1 into it as well. So yeah, I agree with Skyrider there. I've got it primed in my brain as well. We've got a new actor playing this role. It's going to be slightly different, but it's going to be done with so much respect to the original actor that, I feel very comfortable with it. And moving forward with Star Wars, this is something I think as wider as a fandom we're going to have to get used to. If we want the stories of Luke, Leia and Han to continue, we're going to have to accept that new actors are going to have to take on those roles. In the sequel trilogy with the passing of Carrie Fisher, I wasn't ready at that point to see that character recast, and I think it was the right decision not to recast that character at that time. But if you were to tell a new story with the character of Leia, I would be quite happy for that character to be recast now. And I think that it can be an individual thing, but I think there's an understanding and a comfort level as what's right and when it's right. And Rey's passing was obviously completely tragic and unexpected, and a difficult decision for Dave Filoni to make, to recast to continue the character, but it would have felt almost like an insult to what Rey brought to the character in season 1 not to see that character get its full arc. And so I have a nervous anticipation for what's going to come. I want it to be brilliant. I will be very much giving my support publicly, continuously for Rory throughout this. And I'm sure there'll be people just looking to find fault. Don't be that person. Be like Skyriders being, let's get in our heads, prime it now. We're going to get a new phenomenal actor taking on the role. It's going to be very different. It's not going to be Rey. He can't be Rey. He has to be himself in that character. And but we're going to get, Baylan's story continue. And my thought, and that'll be my final thought, I guess, on the matter tonight, is if we didn't love the work that Rey did as the character of Baylan, it would have been easy for us to not continue the story. You could have found a way to complete the story off screen. It's the fact that we loved Rey and loved the character so much that means that's why it's so important that it continues. And having his friend in Rory McCann take on the role, I'm excited to see what he brings, because he was phenomenal in Game of Thrones. And I can't wait to see what he brings to Ahsoka. And I'm actually quite interested to see the continuation of the Ahsoka series. I'm a big Star Wars literature fan, so the witches were a big part of Star Wars literature, so seeing them in live action is kind of exciting. Seeing what they're going to do, seeing them at Dathomir and seeing the map just recently revealed on StarWars.com with the galaxy, an updated Star Wars map, seeing how close it is to Aten makes me question whether we may see some connections to Skeleton Crew. How exciting would it be to see or learn perhaps that Jordan Nawood is perhaps connected to Baylan Skoll potentially? That could be interesting in its own way. So yeah, I'll wait to find out more what they're going to do with Ahsoka, but I think there's a lot of interesting ways that they can go on this. And so I'm delighted that Ivanna's feeling so happy about the changes, and talked about how much Rory's putting into the role. So very, very positive on this. And can't wait to see more, which I guess is probably going to be next summer. That is this week's news, but just picking up on some of Skyrider saying here, not a piece, but there's some gold Star Wars stories in some of those animated series. I know I have to get into Star Wars animation somehow. Animation's just never been a part of kind of products that I enjoy. I might have to do a watch along series to force myself to watch some of this. I'm familiar with the general arcs because obviously it crosses into literature, and so yeah, I need to get into. I really struggled with the Clone Wars animated series. It was not bad episodes, but it was so disjointed, the storylines as it started, and I think everyone says you've kind of got to push through the first few episodes of season 1 of the Clone Wars to really get into it. So I may have to do this as a watch-along series at some time, but many people have tried to get me to start. And yeah, I agree. The map on StarWars.com was very interesting. It's always there to be changed, I think, when it comes to these things. They'll never be set in stone. But yeah, the placement of some of the worlds close by to each other was very interesting. And Aten and Dathomir, not quite next door, but very close to each other, was very, very interesting indeed. And I'm very excited to see perhaps more exploration of the Chiss as well, beyond Grand Admiral Thrawn as a race, very close to the planet Exegol. And I think you could actually make some really interesting stories from the unknown regions with the Chiss, what was going on with the Sith out there. You can kind of even avoid bringing Emperor Palpatine into it, but just the Sith acolytes and the Chiss, do they connect up somehow? And because my general feeling when it comes to Star Wars storytelling is we need to build up almost go-to villains, groups of villains we can go to. We've kind of got the Hutts. We need to build up the family of Hutts. Again, I think we're going to see that in the Mandalorian Grogu. We need to have the Sith brought back into things, not just necessarily a master and apprentice, but the Sith acolytes, and really build them up and have them as a constant antagonist. We need to have some kind of functional active empire out there that's a counterbalance to the Republic. All these things, so you can continuously go back to these group of people and create a new character and spawn them out of these factions in effect. And so yeah, it's bringing the Chiss in would give us a whole new type of enemy. I'd even go as far as bringing back the Yuzong Vong as well, which would probably be controversial. But yeah, new enemies and let's not just bring them in for one project and kill them off in that project. Let them grow and expand across Star Wars storytelling, across comics, across books, across TV, across movies, so we can go back to them. So there's this constant, war in effect, and that's what we had if you think back through the entirety of the prequels and the original trilogy. You had the continuously either the Sith versus the Jedi or the Empire versus the Rebellion. And so you were able to go over multiple movies, go back to those groups and bring in new characters. So you could bring in a Count Dooku, you could bring in Darth Maul, you could spin off and bring in a General Grievous as well, who were aligned with that group of people. And you've got an animation, Asajj as well, who's been very popular in the animation. And again, on the Empire, we talked about Admiral Piet as well earlier in the show. And he was over multiple movies as well. And I think it's important to allow these characters to grow. And I think that was something that Andor did very well with the ISB, and that they allowed that faction to grow. And so characters who were minor characters in season 1 became hugely prominent and important in season 2 and really crucial to the story. And they did that as well with the likes of Kayla as well, where you've just allowed characters to grow and exist, and you don't have to do a lot with those characters, but have them exist in the Star Wars galaxy, and then when it's right, go back and make them a focus. So yeah, there's a lot of work I think that Star Wars needs to do to build itself up, to create a platform to build on. And I hope with Dave Filoni now fully in control of Star Wars Creative, we start seeing these building blocks put in place across multiple versions of Star Wars storytelling as well. And I think that kind of world building is something that Dave would be very good at doing. And with that, we'll call it a night. And we've covered all the Star Wars news for this week. Next week, Paul Naylor will be back. I will have someone to bounce my thoughts and opinions off of, rather than rattling on just myself. But I like talking to myself at times, so appreciate all the people with the comments as well. Enjoy having everyone's thoughts as part of the show as well, and that's what I love most about doing this show as well, is getting people's opinions, because I always say it, I'm just one thought, and my thought's no more important than the next person. So hearing everybody's thoughts and being able to do it in a calm and constructive kind of way where it's okay to disagree is one of the best things about presenting this show. And appreciate very much, Guy Ryder. Loved your thoughts on the news items as well when we've gone over this as well. It's been really appreciated. And with that, we'll call it a night, and we'll be back next week, everyone.
Keep up to date with the latest Star Wars news each and every day on FanthaTracks.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, and Pinterest at Fantha Tracks. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow Fantha Tracks TV to be alerted to new content and to be a part of our live shows.